So I've been doing a lot of research, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of videos out there about people that are currently going through the medical evaluation board process and talking about what kind of things they have to go through and what to expect while you're going through the process. There's some stuff you can find online, but no one's actually saying, hey, look, this is how it's been going. So I figured I'd go ahead and get one started. So I've been in the service for 10 years, and they decided in July to consider me for a medical evaluation board. And I just got an answer back about 2 weeks ago that they're going to do a full board, which basically means they're going to review my records and determine if the condition that they have identified as being a potential issue is going to disqualify me for continued service. So, am I ready? Probably not, because I wasn't expecting to get medical boarded, but it's the cards I've been dealt, so now we gotta see how the process goes. So, basically what happens is somebody in the medical field that works on base determines that you have an unfitting condition that means it would cause a problem for you to continue serving. Potentially. So they go ahead and submit a package filled with background information on what they have seen for your condition, and they send it to your commander and ask them to provide a referral. So I've been through that process. I've seen what my commander wrote. Because after your commander writes their recommendation on whether to proceed with the board, the individual going through the board has a chance to respond to their commander's comments. So after that, it gets sent to the liaison officer for the MEB. And then it goes to AFPC for their determination. So my commander was actually a little harsh with some of the stuff that was put in my letter. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure no one in my office would agree with anything that he wrote in there. But basically, it wrote out that due to my condition, I am unfitting to be an NCO and to lead my people, even though my supervisors tell me that I'm doing a really great job. So, but what can I do? It's commander's decision. We'll see how it goes. So anyway, it goes to AFPC. Once they come back with a decision, they'll decide to either continue with a full board or say it just needs to go through a partial review, or that nothing's required. That it's just done, they're going to hold you. So keep in mind, some of this information is based off of what my medical office has been telling me. So my experience is probably going to be much different from your experience in terms of some of the information that flows, but this will at least give you a good starting point. So they sat me down and talked to me about the process, and it turns out that the medical board process is actually congressionally mandated, which basically means that everyone we voted into office said the military doesn't know how to take care of their people, so we're going to do it for you. And what it boils down to is they state it should be a 230 calendar day process. That includes weekends, holidays, you name it. Regardless of if it's a duty day, it's counted. So basically the referral starts, which is where that initial notice comes out that they want to start your stuff. Then you'll meet with a VA claims officer, which I have also done. And the downfall is no one told me exactly what to expect from that appointment. So I wasn't prepared for it. Because when you sit down with a claims officer, you're supposed to let them know right there on the spot all the issues you've had. So they'll have gone through your medical records and found a few things, but if there's anything not in your records that you want them to review, you are responsible for telling them right then and there to add it on. based off of what the claims officer said, if you don't say it at that moment, at that meeting, it's not going to be included in your claims. So obviously I wasn't expecting that, and having not prepared by writing out some of the things that I think would be something to claim, I kind of drew a blank, gave him one or two things to get added on, and as soon as I said it, he said, nope, don't worry about it. That part's all going to be covered underneath your, what do they refer to it as? Medical condition to be considered as the basis of fitness for duty determination, which basically means it falls under my condition that they're determining to be unfitting. So whether or not that's true, I don't know, but I'll find out when I talk to the VA folks later on. So once you do the claims, they have about 32 days to get you an appointment with a VA to actually assess all these claims that you're making. So there's no limit on the number of things you can claim in your package. So if you have any issue at all, to include ED, erectile dysfunction, can get you something if you've got it. So no matter what it is, how embarrassing, if you think it's going to be an issue, male, female, make sure you include it in your claims development. Once you get your claims done, they have 32 days to get you an appointment with a VA hospital, where basically you'll go in and get all these things evaluated, and they'll come up with some sort of percentage after that. So you'll go in for these appointments. Once you have your appointments, there's 25 days for the actual evaluation board to happen. So during that time, the VA is working on crunching numbers to figure out what percentage disability you'd be able to get. So right now, I'm just waiting for my appointments. Last night I got a package in the mail with some information on the appointments I've got. You know, I live in Delaware, but I have to drive to Philadelphia for my VA appointments, which basically means I'm going to be out of work for the days I need to go up there because it's an hour-and-a-half drive at least with no traffic. So it'll be an interesting experience, to say the least, and I'm getting a lot of inputs from other people on how to approach the actual appointments. Some people are saying to exaggerate, make things out to be worse than they could be, but today I actually got some advice that I think is better than that, because we shouldn't be trying to lie about what's wrong with us. Instead, I was told, talk about when it's at its worst. Whatever it is that you're claiming, talk about what is your worst day like, because that'll be the basis for them to make the percentage determination. If you walk in there and tell them, oh yeah, you know, I'm fine today, my shoulder's doing well, or, you know, no suicidal thoughts, you know, I wouldn't kill myself, none of that stuff's gonna help you. So talk to them like it's one of your worst days, or not like it's your worst day, but as if it were to be a worse day. Explain how that would be. So I have my appointments next week on Monday and Wednesday, and then again on the 17th. So for each area that you have a claim, they're going to try to get you in with some sort of specialist or some sort of doctor or nurse to assess the claim, to determine just how much of a disability is it. They do have a nice little sheet to kind of show you, so you can go in with an idea on what it could be, that tells you what they're looking for certain percentages. So like 30%, 50%, 70%, and then a small explanation on what would qualify for that percentage. So I've taken a look through it for my main issue that they're saying is a potential unfitting condition, and I am somewhere between the 50 and 70% mark. So it could be more, it could be less. It all kind of depends on what they say, because not everything for my condition is outlined in that little percentage spiel. So hopefully the people that have me seeing will be able to determine what's going on. So the other thing is, if you have more than one claim, the percentages do add up. So they can say one thing is worth 50%, another thing is worth 30%, but that doesn't give you 80% disability. Or excuse me, it doesn't give you an 80% disability rating. What they'll do is they'll take that 50% and that 30%, and then they'll kind of average it out. It doesn't come out to an exact mathematical average, but there is some funky math that the VA does, and a 50% and a 30% would probably come out to be 70%. So the more claims you have, the more intricate their math becomes. So if you have more than 3 claims, they'll have your primary condition, your secondary condition, they'll do their averaging math that they do. Then when they get that percentage, they'll take a look at the percentage for that third condition, and based off of a chart where it falls is what you're going to be getting. So I have 12 conditions on my claim that they're going to check out, they're going to assess. Some of it might not be an issue, some of it might be a lot bigger of a problem than I am expecting, which, I'm not going to lie, that kind of sucks. I mean, this whole process is a little scary, because they say it can happen very fast or it can be long and drawn out. So the good thing is, the only reason this should be drawn out for any reason is because I decide that I want to fight whatever it is that the board decides, or to try to get the VA to reconsider their percentages and either have them be higher or lower. So, because the dates that are set by Congress. So in theory, the services shouldn't be doing anything to change that. And the process timeline is the same regardless of which branch you're in. So they call it the Integrated Disability Evaluation System, or IDES. So in case you were wondering, or if you hear it later on while you're going through the process, that's what they're talking about. So one other thing I did learn through this process so far, and it's still really early on, is if they decide to retire you, that doesn't mean you're getting all of your retirement benefits. So the way it works, anything from 10% or lower is retained to service. It's like nothing ever happened. If you come back with a combined percentage of 10% to 30%, it's a medical separation. So you'll be discharged, you'll get some sort of compensation pay to go along with it, and from the looks of things, it's your base pay multiplied by your years of service. So with me being in for 10 years, and my base pay being for an E6, that is a huge chunk of money I would be getting. However, if your combined percentage is over 30%, it's a medical retirement. Now, the medical retirement can actually go 2 different ways. It can be a temporary retirement or a permanent retirement. If you don't know what a temporary retirement is, it basically means that they retire you, then they reassess your situation later on. After they reassess, they can actually determine to bring you back to duty, which sounds like a really good deal as far as I'm concerned. Or they can decide to convert your temporary retirement into a permanent retirement. But the longest amount of time you can be on that temporary retirement for is 3 years. If at the end of 3 years they don't make a decision, you're automatically permanently retired. It's a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. So the one thing that they did tell me about, though, is the Office of the Airmen's Council. Luckily, I snoop around when I'm bored at work and don't have much to do, so I've actually heard of the Airmen's Council already. And basically, it's just an office that specializes in medical evaluation board cases. Now, this is specifically for the Air Force. I'm not sure if the other branches have an office that does a similar function, but it would make sense if they did, because let's be honest, if they're going to try to get you out, you should have some sort of lawyer in your back pocket to be like, Whiskey Tango Fox, what do you think you're doing when the paperwork comes through? But basically, the Office of the Airmen's Council, their entire responsibility is to give you legal advice and assistance during the process. Now, I'm told that they can't really be of assistance until you get a percentage back. Once that percentage comes out and you get a determination from the board, then they start coming in handy, but you'll only have 6 days to get a response from them. So if you don't hear anything from them by the end of 6 days, you either have to agree with what the board decides or fight it. The advice I've gotten so far is if I do not get a response from the Office of the Airmen's Council within 6 days, is to immediately say I'm going to fight it. Because once you decide to fight it, it's going to send the process in a completely different direction, and it's going to allow you more time to actually talk to a lawyer. Whereas if you just take what they're giving you and run with it, the Office of the Airmen's Council or whatever lawyer you're using can't help you at all. Because at that point, you're already locked in. So that's why they say go ahead and tell them that you don't agree with what they're saying. The idea, though, is that they are very quick to get back to you. So they can be reached by telephone, by email. If you're stationed in Texas, that's where the Office of the Airmen's Council is, at Lackland, then see if you can stop by their office. Cool, great. But, we'll see how it goes. I've also been told that if I have to meet the formal board at any point, or if I choose to meet the formal board, I will actually need to fly to Texas to see whoever it is I'm going to be assigned for at the Office of the Airmen's Council. So, not sure how that's going to work just yet, but it is what it is. So in my process, like I said, I'm still early in, but the condition I'm being considered for the board is major depressive disorder. And because of that, the PEBLO or the MEBLO, same office, liaison officer, has directed me towards the Wounded Warrior program. So this isn't the same Wounded Warrior program everyone knows about. It's kind of like an offshoot where it's the Air Force Wounded Warriors. So they do deal with the Wounded Warrior program, but it's not the same thing. At least that's what the recovery care coordinator, who is part of the Air Force Wounded Warrior, was telling me. So apparently there's all kinds of good benefits that go along with it if it works out. If not, it is what it is. But one thing he did repeat that I had already heard is if you get medically retired, you are not entitled to a military retirement pension if you are not retirement eligible at the time. So for me being 10 years in, I am not eligible to retire. So if I were to medically retire because of this board, I would essentially just get an ID card and access to the base and healthcare. That's it. So I'd have to get my disability checks, if I even get one, and try to find a job. Now the downfall to trying to find a job is it depends on your percentages. Because it turns out, and no one told me this, but the VA gives you two different ratings. You get your disability rating, which is a scale of 0 to 100, and it's always a tens. So 10%, 20%, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. It's always going to be that even 10 number. Then they give you something called an employability rating, or something to that effect, which basically determines if you're even eligible to work. Because just because you're 100% disabled doesn't mean that you can't work, I guess is their math behind it. But if you end up with a rating below 100% on your disability, you could still be ineligible to get a lot of jobs because of your employability rating. Apparently, if that one hits 100%, you're automatically going to be jolted into 100% disability because they've already determined that you can't work for whatever reason. The condition itself could be a 50%, but because of your specific circumstances, they could decide that you're not able to work for whatever reason at all. Which is pretty terrible, especially considering the VA website says if you are 100% disabled and not able to work because of that other rating, you cannot make more in the annual year that exceeds the federal poverty line. Which I told some friends of mine that, and they were pretty stunned. That they would say somebody who's been in the service that is disabled can't work more than somebody in poverty, essentially keeping them in poverty. So I don't know if that's combining whatever they make for the year with their disability or if it's separate from their disability check. But it's kind of a scary thing to think about, you know? That you could potentially be stuck in a rock and a hard place, between a rock and a hard place, just because the VA rated you something. The good news is there are some exceptions. So if you decide you want to start up a family business, there is no limits. You can still work with that, and it doesn't matter what you make. Because it's a family-run business, they won't tell you you can't work. And I'm thinking that probably has something to do with the fact that you can control what you do better in a family business than you can if you were to get a job somewhere else. So you can be more lenient on yourself and your family can be more lenient on you than another employer could be. So I'm guessing that's where that comes from. But hopefully, as I get further into the process, I can find a little bit more out. And hopefully, as I'm doing these videos, it'll help somebody out that's in the same situation that I'm in, where the information's just not readily available and you really have to dig to get it. So hopefully somewhere along the line this comes out and a lot of these questions and uncertainties get addressed, because so far a lot of the questions I've had and the uncertainties I've had, not many people have been able to give me any direction on. So we'll see how the rest of this goes. But my one piece of advice is, as soon as they say that you're going through a medical board, immediately go through that transition assistance program briefing. That TAP briefing, I haven't been through it yet, but I did get it scheduled as soon as I realized what was going on. It's supposed to be some program that basically helps you transition into civilian life. So there's all kinds of other programs that can help you out too. After you've gone through TAP, they have workshops for if you want to be an entrepreneur and start your own business. They have workshops for if you want to go through technical training or be a teacher. So it's really beneficial to go through some of these things. But I definitely recommend signing up for TAP as soon as someone mentions that you are a candidate for a med board. So, like I said, mine was told to me. I went and got scheduled. due to some office conflicts, I'm scheduled to start in January, so hopefully that goes all right. But, we'll see how it goes. Like I said, hopefully this will help ease some people's minds. Hopefully it will open the eyes of some people that just don't realize what it means to have to go through a board, or, what kind of struggles there are through the process. But until next time.